Roberto De Zerbi faces the media today for the first time as the Tottenham Hotspur head coach. So the question we're asking this morning is simple: whether he will keep them in the Premier League. Jay, I know you're a big fan of De Zerbi, but Spurs haven't won in the league since December. How's he going to do it?
Listen, I completely believe in De Zerbi. I think he's a top manager. Everywhere he's been, he's done well. He's got the best out of his team. He's got the best out of, some players that you wouldn't say are top players, but he's got them playing really, really well. Again, I did say that when you do sign De Zerbi, though, you're going to have to understand and accept that he's going to ruffle feathers. He's going to say things in the media that you might not like as, ownership.
But they don't need that, do they, in these 7 games?
Doesn't matter.
Need to stay up somehow.
And I think they will keep. I can't see Tottenham going down. I actually want Tottenham to stay up. I think they're a big club. They've got some top players still, and I think they will stay up. They'll win games, especially with him at the helm now. And I think they're more equipped. I think the way they was playing under Thomas Frank, I think there was cagey. I actually think that there's a lot of similarities with De Zerbi and Ange Postecoglou. But I feel like with De Zerbi, I think the players...
Style of play?
Style of play, playing out from the back, possession-based team, creating, being expansive, but then getting back in. The work rate has to be top-notch with him. I've spoken to a few, players when he was at Brighton, and they said that, as much as he plays great football, the expectation, the work rate of getting forward and getting back has to be spot on, or you just won't play. He don't care about egos. He don't care about what you've done before. It's about what you're doing. And that's what I think Tottenham need. They need a manager like that is just demanding. I think he'll keep them up. And then, again, my early take, I think they could finish top 6 next year if he does.
Wow.
I think they'll bring players in, and I think he's that good a manager with what he's got. Injuries coming back, the likes of Kulusevski, Maddison coming back. There's some good players there.
Yeah. We're going to come back to that. That's a big statement,
Big statement.
For more on this, we can talk live. Delighted to say to Spurs fan, friend of the show, Chris Cowlin. Good morning to you, Chris. I'll get on to what Jay said there in just a moment. But first of all, in general with De Zerbi, do you head into this game, the rest of the season, with more confidence now that De Zerbi is your manager?
Matt, Jay, very good morning to you. Yeah, let's not get carried away yet, Jay. It's about these next 7 Premier League games. It is about Premier League survival and, Premier League status for next season. But to answer your question, Matt, I do feel a little bit more confident about us staying up in the Premier League under De Zerbi, because I completely agree with a lot of what Jay said there. He's going to demand the very best. And, we're now on our 3rd manager of this season, 4 managers in 10 months. We've gone round in circles, since 2019 of moving in that new stadium. 7 permanent managers, 4 interim or caretaker appointments. We can't keep carrying on like this. But De Zerbi will demand the very best. We have seen club videos in this last week or so since he's come into Hotspur Way. Everything looks really positive. What he said, it sounds really positive, but we have been here before. Ask me that question next week when we play Sunderland on Sunday. I could probably say a lot more, but I feel like the fan base is feeling more confident. I don't know whether it's the fact that we haven't played for 3 weeks, but we've got to live in hope now, and we've got to hope that De Zerbi does get the very best out of these players, because as I've been saying all season on here, these players are capable of a lot more, but it is about the manager getting more out of these players to get us results and get us points on the board.
Do you think the players, though, have the confidence? You might be confident. Do the players have the confidence right now? And also, does he have the squad available to stay up?
Well, I think when you look at the squad, they're full of internationals. And when you look at this squad, when you look where we are in the Premier League table, 17th, 1 point above the relegation zone, Spurs are better than 17th place. And these players are better than this position that we are in the Premier League. And they do need to give a lot more. Yes, we've had a lot of injury problems this season. And that certainly does need to be addressed. We had a lot of injury problems last season as well. That should have been addressed in the January transfer window. And, we could talk about this subject for hours, about transfers and about injuries, but that is another subject that does need to be looked at, definitely. But there is more than enough quality in this squad. It is about now Roberto De Zerbi working very hard on the training pitch, knowing who he can use, who he can't. As Jay said there, he can ruffle feathers amongst certain players, and he can have rows with certain players as well. And it's going to be very interesting to see what happens.
Do you think that he can get the best out of Romero now? Because I look at Romero and I say, sometimes it looks like he takes liberties with certain managers, like he's bigger than the manager. I don't think he has that with De Zerbi. Do you think that De Zerbi can make him curb his discipline, improve his discipline, and start leading as a captain should?
I think it's fair to say discipline has been another issue as well, Jay, this season so far. And, players like Romero, particularly, someone who's wearing the captain's armband, everyone needs to be all in. And I'm sure that De Zerbi in this last week, at Hotspur Way, has been having that conversation with every single player individually and as a group as well, that every player needs to be all in and ready for this fight and ready for this challenge, because it's very fair to say, that 44-day stint under Igor Tudor, that they were really poor performances, and those defeats, we were very, very well beaten. And, players like Romero, World Cup winner, they've got to give more. They've got to be up for this fight, and I'm sure he will be.
Obviously, you've been waiting for guys to come back from injury for quite a while now. You've been terribly hit by injuries this season. One of those guys supposed to come back was Mohamed Kudus. He was supposed to be the knight in shining armour. He was supposed to be close to coming back. We're now hearing that he's had a setback and he's unlikely to feature for the rest of the season. How big a blow is that?
Very disappointing again, Matt. And, you could look at the players like Kulusevski as well. Kulusevski has been out longer than Eriksen's, tragic... when he went down, during that tournament, and he's been out longer than that period. So, this is going to be a huge miss again. This part of this season, need to pick up points, and we need to pick up, wins in this Premier League campaign, particularly at this point where we are in the Premier League table. So we need players coming back urgently, and he's been misdiagnosed clearly again. These players seem to be out for a couple of weeks, and then it turns into a couple of months, and then it's such long periods of time. This cannot carry on like this. Something drastic needs to change in the summer. Let's just get to the summer, and then Spurs need to really look at different departments in order to improve.
Yeah, well, if you get to the summer, Jay thinks you might finish in the top 6 next year. Chris, we run out of time, but thanks very much. Listen, best of luck on the weekend and for the rest of the season as well. Right, De Zerbi will be holding his first news conference as Spurs manager today. That will be box office. We'll bring it to you from 1:30 p.m. right here on Sky Sports News. Right, we'll be crossing to Glasgow next. We're going to hear from the Rangers.